How you doing? My name is Jim Beauregard. I am the director / choreographer for Into the Woods here at Dean College's production. Wow, that was okay. I serve as director choreographer, but I also serve as the technical director. So my job is basically to oversee all of the technical aspects of the show as technical director, and as director and choreographer, I'm looking at the movement of the show and the storytelling. I have an artistic staff. My musical director works with a lot of the vocal and choral stuff, and we also have his vocal specialist, Jen Scrow, who does individual work with our actors.
For his new wife, the festival! A woman with 2 daughters of her own. Look at your nails, your friends, look at she said she goes to the festival and dancing for the prince.
How many hours would you estimate you and your crew work on building the set or on lighting? This is my technical director side of the head speaking right now. We probably started thinking about design at the beginning of the semester. We had talked conceptually probably in August. September we started talking about how we're physically going to build it. And then probably about 5 weeks of actual build time. We spent a lot of time building some of the sets in the shop with the idea of how we're going to move them through a 36-inch door. And most of the time we were successful. Every once in a while you got to do something pretty crazy. But everything was built with the idea that we're going to move it out and get it into the space. So I'd say it's like 4 weeks of time. The crew varies. My Tech Production 1 class and some of my work study people work on all those sets. And that varies on the amount of hours. There's 6 labs that go during the week, and plus this weekend time that they put in there. So it's probably a good amount of hours that go into the production side of the show. As far as lighting, my lighting designer came in 2 weeks prior to opening. He had come in 3 weeks ago to look at the set, and then he came in and had an idea of what he was going to do for his hang. Hang is when they're putting the lights up. So we started doing that. We had a Saturday and a Sunday where we actually installed the light plot, and then we had about a little over a week of doing cue to cue. That was one of the questions I want to know, what's an average cue to cue? Our tech week, Saturday morning we started our cue to cue. The technical crew arrived around 9, and from 9 to 12 they did focusing and finishing up the hang, and then the cast goes through the show one scene at a time as we go all the way through the show. For a show like this, it's pretty complicated. So you find yourself in the middle of each song. It's similar to a dance show. The lighting is a big part of the storytelling. So we have to make sure that the lighting is accurate. We're telling the story. So there's a lot of movement in the lights, which movement means up and down, on and off. And so we spent a lot of time working with that, because it's very important. A particular show like this, like Into the Woods, is a large, the musical score is very big. So there's a lot of underscoring of different scenes. So that was also another place where you spend a lot of time working with the actors and making sure that you're filling that area. As far as choreography, this for me is a different kind of show. My background is in movement. I work as a fight choreographer, but my master's is in theater and dance. And so for me, this show was a little bit more of a challenge than a regular dance show, because the movement, it never stops. It's not so much a step ball change or kick or turn. It's more about a constant flow. So the whole show has that kind of feeling to it that you're almost like on a roller coaster. And that's what we were looking for with the show. We didn't want it to stop. This show it's not very linear. It doesn't just move forward. It zigzags, and I think that's what's exciting for the audience. And it's as far as shows go, it's a little longer than usual. It's a 2.5-hour show. So you can't afford you can't have those stops and goes. And I think Sondheim really wrote it that way too. Even the music, as you come in, when it crescendos to the end of a song, a lot of times it's like a big applause area, but he jumps right ahead back into the underscoring and keeps the show moving itself, which I think is pretty wonderful.
Okay. Nice. Joy, what do you start your
How many hours do you put in as the director and as the technical director? Well, I can say as a director, let's see, when I knew I was doing this show in May, you start thinking about it then. My primary CD in my car was Into the Woods. I would listen to it, I'd choreograph while I was driving, I'd choreograph while I was working, I would be thinking about casting. It's probably the toughest part of the job as a director is casting, because you want to get the right people in the right role. And you also, in a setting like this at Dean College, you also want to make sure you're thinking about everybody and opportunity. We do multiple shows during a semester, so there's a lot of talent here in the department and on campus. And so we're trying to spread that wealth so everybody gets a chance to be on stage. It was a big turnout. We had close to 100 students audition for the show. 30 of them are in the show, and that ranges from principal roles to support roles. But the idea for the whole process is it's all about ensemble, which actually works right into my next job, which is as technical director. So I sort of oversee the lighting, work with the sound people, work with the set designer, the costume designer. And it's very funny because that sort of, my technical director and my director job sort of bleed into the same thing. I love my work. I love being able to work on a process where we go from life to death in 6 to 8 weeks. And that's what we do here in the theater. We are constantly trying to create something that's living and breathing and giving it to an audience that's ready for a story. And that's sort of that's what I love about my job. What would you say to someone who thinks being a TD is easy? Oh, what about a director? Well, I'll give you one word of advice. If you want to be a TD or you want to be a director, you can't be afraid of work. My day, typical day, I get in here at 7 in the morning, between 7 and 7:30, and I go home at like 10 or 11 at night. Now the key is to marry someone or be with someone that understands that you love what you're doing, and I do. I'm very fortunate, but I also, you can't think about the clock when you're doing theater. You can't think about that. You got to think about, because there's not an infinite number of hours to rehearse. You have to, everything has to be done. You have a deadline. You have an opening day, you have a preview, and you can't wait, you can't lollygag. So every moment is precious, and that's what you're trying to do. So you're trying to be prepared, and it works both ways, both on the technical side and on the walking the boards as a director. I think probably my favorite thing about being a director is that I get to be every role in the show. And my favorite part of being a technical director is I get to solve problems. So these are all pretty cool things. So I would say if anybody thinks it's an easy job, it's not. But is it a fun job? Yes, it is. So I hope you have a great day and come see Into the Woods.